Ladies and gents, if you are seeing myself and Matt LaMarca on the screen right now, it means it is Friday, and it is this edition of the Slate. That was a weird way to say this. It is the edition of the Slate for Friday, talking about Major League Baseball. We don't have any crappy hosts with us on this week. It is just LaMarca and I talking baseball, maybe a little bit of NBA. We'll get LaMarca's thoughts on the finals at the end, while I contribute absolutely nothing at the end. We'll get his thoughts on that. But before that, we're going to get into tonight's MLB slate. 12 games on the docket tonight, starting after 7:05 p.m. Eastern. LaMarca, how you doing, my handsome friend?
Good. Always wonderful to hear your voice. No Glash, no Kaufman today. Back to just what some people are calling. I didn't even have my microphone up. I apologize. I'm a mess right now.
That's okay.
But yeah, some of us are calling us the bad boys of fantasy. I don't know. I'm just gonna run with it.
I like that. I mean, take that as you will. Bad boys. It has a lot of definitions. You do whatever you please on that. It's a frisky Friday, so you do however you please. Okay, 12 games on the docket tonight. No weather concerns at all. We have Coors Field slate, which Coors Field, by the way, has been rocking lately. I don't know if you've noticed. That's that series with the Marlins, the Braves last night. The Rockies desperately need somebody to go deep into the game. I don't think his name is Chad Kuhl, but we will see on that. But looking over the whole landscape for tonight, a lot of good options going. I have a couple of thoughts on some of the more expensive guys that you can take at starting pitcher. But where are you looking to build your lineups tonight as starting pitcher?
Well, yeah, it's a fantastic slate, right? We've got tons of high-priced pitchers to consider. We've got Coors Field to consider. So yeah, it's one of those slates where you can really go a lot of different directions with your lineups. And we have 12 games to choose from. So I do think Gerrit Cole is the most important pitcher to talk about today. He's going to carry the highest ownership. I would imagine he's going to be 40+%.
Yeah.
But it's just a fantastic spot against the Tigers. He's a -360 favorite. The Tigers are implied for just 2.7 runs. Cole has, really been displaying the strikeout upside as well recently. So it's very hard to make a case that he's going to disappoint today. I have no problem using him as a chalky option. There are pivots if you wanted to get a little bit creative, but for my money, Cole is the best pitcher on the slate.
So interestingly enough, you mentioned how big of a favorite the Yankees are tonight. There have been 4 instances this Major League Baseball season where a team has been -250 or larger favorite. They're all 0-4 to start the year. We have not seen a favorite -250 or bigger win a game this season, which is shocking to say. But I think at least how this one sets up, this might be where that trend breaks. And then it turns.
I think we can chalk that up to small sample size.
No, for sure. But just it's surprising to see those big of a favorites go down, all of them so far this season.
Right.
One of them was this Yankees team, and I think it was Cole going against the Orioles. And for whatever reason, the Orioles have actually played the Yankees very hard this season, but that was one of the losses that we've had. But I'm with you. Gerrit Cole, I think, is one of the better options on this slate tonight. And I think right after that is Shane McClanahan going against the Chicago White Sox. The Chicago White Sox have been one of the toughest teams in the league to strike out against righties. That changes dramatically against lefties. They are one of the top strikeout teams in the league against lefties. And I have been harping on McClanahan since the beginning. I think he's one of the better Cy Young candidates on the board right now. And this could further push that case going against a Chicago White Sox team that still just hasn't gotten it together so far this season. So I think that this is a good spot for McClanahan tonight. 9,600 is more than fair for him with the strikeout upside that he possesses as well. So I think McClanahan is one of my favorite options.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think I'm out on McClanahan just real quickly. He is going to be very popular, and I do think in a vacuum, 9,600 is just too cheap for this guy. But I don't see the same upside with this matchup against the White Sox. The strikeout rate against left-handers is 18th, which is, below average. I'm not saying that McClanahan can't get a bunch of strikeouts in that matchup, but it's far from an elite spot. And they are second in WRC plus against left-handed pitchers. So this White Sox offense has had a lot of problems this year, and certainly they have been one of the most overrated units in baseball, but most of those struggles have come against other pitchers, right-handed pitchers. So I'm okay with being underweight on a chalky McClanahan today.
So I was going to bring up that one of the guys that I'm actually going to be staying away from is Corbin Burnes going against the Padres. Now, when you look at Corbin Burnes, we can say that his strikeout numbers have been down so far this season. It feels like we're pulling hairs here because we're still talking about somebody who's striking out almost 11 batters per 9 inning, but he was averaging almost 13 last year. So we're down a little bit overall. You look at his props for tonight, like his over under and strikeouts. It's at 7.5 tonight. He's gone under that in 4 of his last 5 starts, including one of the starts against the Padres where he only struck out 5. Now, when you have this list of pitchers going tonight, at least for me, Burnes feels like the guy that I think I would be most comfortable missing out on tonight, because yes, while he does have that really good strikeout potential, and while we've seen it happen in the past, at 10,100, matched up at least with some of these other guys, I think some of these other guys have better upside than Burnes does against this Padres team specifically. The Padres have not been striking out a ton so far this season. They've been done a really good job at making contact, and they rank 15th in the league in K rate at 22.6 against righties. So I don't say this is a bad spot for Corbin Burnes, but if you're going to pay for somebody who just faced his club, they only got 1 run off of him on 5 hits, but he only struck out 5, and you got 21.3 DraftKings fantasy points. That would be a fine output if he was maybe about 2K below the price that he's at tonight at 10,100. So not saying he's going to go out there and replicate that start, as we saw last time, but at least with some of the upside that you have with some of these other guys in their matchups, I think I'm okay with fading Burnes tonight. What do you think?
It's a tough fade for me. I think Corbin Burnes, just like on pure talent, is one of the best pitchers in the league. And this Padres offense is not particularly intimidating in my eyes. You mentioned the strikeout rate is below average, but they're 25th in WRC plus against right-handed pitchers. Burnes is a decent home favorite here. Only 3 runs implied for the Padres. So I think that Corbin Burnes is just a guy that I'm always kind of gravitating towards being overweight on.
Sure.
I do think that he will end up being somewhat popular today. So if you want to say that you prefer pivoting to somebody like Shane Bieber, for example, I'm cool with that. Yeah. It's not going to surprise me if Corbin Burnes dominates in this spot.
But would you say it's fair to say that of the 3 guys that are in the 10K range, that they probably, in terms of popularity, would it go in the order that they're priced? So it would be Cole first, then Musgrove, then Burnes, because I would say Musgrove has the safer matchup against the Brewers. Would you do?
Nobody's going to play Musgrove tonight. Not a single human being.
Wow. That's not a single person. He's going to have 0 ownership tonight.
Literally 0.0 ownership. He's a plus 136 underdog. The Brewers are implied for 3.7 runs. They hit tons of homers. I just don't see how you can click on his name at 10.6 when you can get Gerrit Cole for 10.9, Corbin Burnes for 10.1, Bieber for 9.8, or McClanahan for 9.6. It's impossible for me to really make that decision. So if you're looking for just a really low owned dart play, I think Musgrove could legitimately be sub 5% tonight. Yep.
Would you also be surprised to know that even though Burnes' ERA is at 1.95, his FIP is hovering just over 3?
No, I mean, the strikeout rate is down. Believe me, I know all the Corbin Burnes numbers. I mean, the 2.87 xERA, it's about a full run higher than last season, but yeah. Last season, he was just disgusting.
Lights out.
Going from disgusting to excellent, I'm okay with that kind of regression.
Yeah. You did bring up Bieber. I did want to bring up him because this is the one I can't figure out the most. Bieber, coming off this game against the Detroit Tigers, who Gerrit Cole is facing tonight, but Bieber was really struggling to get strikeouts in that matchup. And that's not a team that you should be struggling to get strikeouts against, even after going 8 innings. He had 5 strikeouts in that game. I don't think his first strikeout even came until the 4th inning. And I only know this because I took the over on his strikeouts, which was at 5.5. And I'm like, oh, that's too low. And when I checked on the game, finally, we were in the 3rd inning. He didn't have a single strikeout. And I said, this can't be right. Something's wrong. Let me go back and look. And it was true. It was just groundouts and flyouts. That's all he was giving up. He was giving up nothing. Guys were getting on base. I think they had 8 hits in that game, but he wasn't striking out a ton of guys. And you want to talk about strikeout numbers that have dropped dramatically. 12.4 K9 for Bieber last year. Through 96 and 2/3 innings, by the way. He is over halfway at that mark this year. 8.5 K9 this year. So we're talking about 4 strikeout difference and it's not even a small sample at this point. It's almost half of what he did last year. Now we have an Orioles team that continues to lose, but it's not like they just roll over. Like, this is like a very pesky Orioles team that just seems to continuously hang around against good teams too. So Bieber at 9,800 feels like, that feels like a good play, but I don't feel great about playing him at this point.
It's fair. I mean, you look at the numbers this year and it's definitely there's something different, right? Yeah. And if you want to say it's that he's no longer using the sticky stuff, that's fine with me. But yeah, he was in the 98th percentile for K rate in 2020, 94th last season, and now he's 53rd.
Wow.
Whiff rate, 98th percentile to 97th percentile to 71st. So the swing and miss stuff just really hasn't been there for him. So I would say that if you want to say there's a pitcher in this cohort that doesn't possess an elite ceiling, it might be him. That said, the matchup is good enough, and I think the ownership is low enough that I will have some exposure to him for sure.
No, and I mean, I'm not completely fading him by any means, but I'm definitely less excited. And this might be more of the recency bias. I'm a lot less excited to play him than I think I normally would be in a matchup against Baltimore. Just because of what we saw against the Tigers, who, by the way, is one of the top strikeout teams in the league. Coming into tonight, 24.2% K rate. That is the 6th highest in the league against right-handed pitching. And for him to not even have a strikeout through the first 4 innings, or excuse me, the first 3 innings, is shocking for the pitcher that we've come to know with Shane Bieber, who is always someone that you would expect to be racking up the strikeouts. Did not happen in that instance at all. A couple of guys I do want to bring up that are lower, probably going to be lower owned or way down the board here. YUSEI KIKUCHI going up against the Twins. Did you see all the guys that can't play because they're going to Toronto? They had a number of roster moves that they had to make for them to, basically go and play in Toronto, like Max Kepler, which is not a big deal, left on left, but like he's one of the names on there. But you look at this Twins lineup for tonight and you go, this is the team that's in first place in the American League Central. Who the hell are these guys? You can't name 3 guys in the bottom half of that lineup tonight. So now you have rough. It's very rough. So I wasn't planning on playing YUSEI KIKUCHI pretty much for the rest of the season, let alone tonight. But now looking at him against this Twins lineup, who as of right now has the highest overall K rate based on their lineup for tonight on this slate. 27.6% is the average K rate of all those players in that lineup tonight. So now I'm like, it's Friday, I want to have a good weekend. And now I'm sitting here thinking about playing YUSEI KIKUCHI going against the Twins, the first place team in the American League Central. But with how that lineup is set up tonight, this kind of looks like a good spot for KIKUCHI.
Yeah, if you're looking to get to, like a big core stack or something, I think KIKUCHI does make some sense. The one thing I will say is he's going to be the chalk in this price range.
Yeah.
Just like we can look at the lineup, so can everybody else.
Sure.
So people know that KIKUCHI is going to have an easier time than expected today. That said, it doesn't change the fact that KIKUCHI just kind of stinks.
He does.
He's in the 12th percentile for hard hit rate, 7th percentile for exit velocity, 17th for barrel rate. Like, it doesn't matter necessarily who he's facing. He's not fooling anybody. He's going to get, like, I expect guys to make pretty good contact against him. So I don't have a ton of interest in him from a tournament perspective. You know, I really don't ever want to be overweight on YUSEI KIKUCHI when he is projected for, you know, approximately 15 to 20% ownership. But in a cash game setting where he can potentially pick us up a cheap win at 6,500, I think that's probably the route I would be more interested in going.
Do you have somebody in that range that you'd prefer? Like Merle Kelly's going against the Pirates, who, by the way, have been playing a lot better lately. They're not the rollover team that they were to start the year. Zach Eflin going against the Angels, who are suddenly scuffling overall, it feels like. They couldn't even they loaded the bases last night against Clay Holmes, couldn't end up tying that game to extend it into extra innings. You got Jose Urquidy going against the Royals, which is, you know, Royals are a tough team to go against with starting pitchers because of how much they don't strike out. And then you got Bruce Zimmerman going against the Guardians. He's a total hit or miss. Anybody in this range that you would prefer? It's probably Kelly if I had to choose.
Yeah, I like, and he's a little bit more expensive, but I like JT Brubaker. I'm always a fan of the Brew. He is a really, really good strikeout pitcher for his price tag. He's averaging 9.5 Ks per 9 innings this season. His ERA is 4.15, but the xERA is 3.48. So he does check a lot of the boxes that I am looking for in a GPP arm. And Arizona is not the most intimidating of matchups out there. He gets to pitch at home in Pittsburgh. We know it's one of the most pitcher-friendly parks in the league. So for me, Brubaker is this guy in the price range that I like the most.
All right, let's switch over to the hitting options for tonight. We mentioned that obviously Coors Field is on the docket tonight, so that's going to be one of the more popular plays. But at this rate, it's almost impossible to stay away from Coors Field because they're putting up like 30 runs a game at this point. It's getting absolutely insane. Like the over-under tonight is at 11 runs, and I think it's minus 120 on the over. Let's just check that real quick. But like, it's been hitting at ease at this point. Like the bullpen desperate. Over under 11. It's even right now, minus 110 on both sides. But I actually think the Rockies are kind of a sneaky play. Well, I don't want to say sneaky play, but the matchup against Max Fried is a lot better than I think people expect. The Rockies team total set at 4.5 runs, so nothing crazy, especially at Coors Field. But this Rockies team against lefties, specifically at home, holy hell, they hit really, really well against lefties at home. Like they're hitting 318 against lefties at home. The WRC plus, I think, is the second best in the league. And this is all specific to home, not overall. But absolutely crushing lefties at home. So I look at Fried and I go, okay, good pitcher. The advanced numbers check out, but this is not a good spot for him at all. So everybody and their mother is going to be on the Braves tonight, but I think really you got to look at the Rockies, even though their team totals at 4.5, they could blow past this early against Fried.
Yeah, I don't mind that call. The one thing I will say about Fried is that he is like an extreme ground ball type pitcher.
Yes.
Which that kind of pitcher should be able to find some success at Coors Field. But the Rockies hit left-handers well enough and they're cheap enough that it doesn't really matter. That's the big thing to me with Coors, right? Like, we have historically seen guys when they go to Coors Field, they get priced up close to 6K in certain cases. There are 3 players priced above 4,700 in this entire matchup. Yeah. And none of them are above 5,200. Like, right. I get it. Coors Field had got off to a slow start this year, but I always say Coors doesn't become Coors until the summer, you know, not until the weather heats up. And now that that has started to happen, it should surprise no one that the ball is starting to fly. So it's very tough to avoid having exposure to these teams. I mean, they're going to command ownership, particularly the Braves. If you want to stack the Braves 1 through 5, you need to be very cognizant of ownership with the rest of your lineup. I think that's really the challenge for me, is trying to stack them in clever ways where I'm not so much eating a ton of ownership.
I do like the over in this game at 11. It's been hitting at ease lately, but I also do like the over 6 through the first 5 innings. So you're basically just kind of working with the starters here. I don't expect Cool to do well in this matchup at all.
Stinks.
He does stink. He really does stink. But going back to Fried again, an interesting nugget that I pulled on him is that the first time through the order for Fried, which would fall obviously right in this first 5 innings, his ERA is at 3.18. Whereas the second time through, he's at 1.85. So he settles in nicely, but you're able to kind of get to Fried early. And that's obviously with the numbers that I gave to you about the Rockies, that might be the opportunity there to get that because, you know, an over under of 6 feels really high. But if they get to Cool early, which is, I think we're all expecting that, and they can get a few off of Fried, you're probably right there at that over under of 6. But yeah, 3.18 ERA, 8 of the 8 runs allowed by Fried of the 21 that he's given up first time through the order. So I think it's just a little bit eye-opening to see those numbers for Fried. So I think taking over 6 runs to the first 5 innings is also a play, but I do definitely like over 11 runs overall. That Rockies bullpen has just not been able to rest. They had those 2 doubleheaders against the Marlins where they put up over 11 runs in both games. Then the Braves just absolutely annihilated them yesterday. Like Travis d'Arnaud hit 2 home runs in that game before the first 5 innings were over. One of them being a grand slam. That Rockies bullpen has had no rest at all. I don't think that's going to happen again tonight with Chad Kuhl, which is even better. Because if they force Chad Kuhl to go deeper into this game than he's allowed, then even better. That means he's probably getting lit up. So there's your runs there anyway. So I think both plays are something to consider for tonight. One stack that I also like a lot tonight as well is the Blue Jays. Did you see who's pitching for the Twins tonight?
Yeah. Who's pitching?
Chichi Gonzalez.
Uncle Chichi.
Where did he come from? I didn't even know he was still in the league. Like I hadn't heard from him in forever. And now he pops up with the Twins. This is just a gift. This is just a gift. You know, we're running out of pitchers to stack against on a daily basis. Like we lost Dallas Keuchel. You know, no one's going to pick him up. Maybe the Reds or something.
Oh, there are supposedly multiple teams interested in Mr. Dallas Keuchel.
Oh, stop it. Are you serious?
That's what I read on Twitter.
Do we have names or just multiple teams?
I've heard multiple. I just heard multiple teams, I believe. I'll look that up while you continue to tell me how bad Chichi Gonzalez is.
So we lost Dallas Keuchel. We're very close to losing Yohan Adon, who pitched against the Reds last night. Davey Martinez was milking every pitch out of him possible. Somehow he got to 100 pitches, even though he gave up 3 runs in the first inning. Somehow he milked him all the way to 100. Now we got Chichi Gonzalez, which is great. You want to talk about somebody who has 0 strikeout potential? It's this guy. Last year with the Rockies, 101 and 2/3 innings pitched. His K9 last year. You want to take a guess on the fly? What was his K9 last year?
5.
Lower.
4.
4.89.
5 was pretty good. That's right on the number.
That was good. 4.89. You want to talk about a pure contact pitcher? Chichi Gonzalez is the poster boy for that. Now he's going up against a suddenly red hot Blue Jays offense. This offense is finally starting to hit. So the Blue Jays tonight should also be considered, I think, one of the top stacks tonight. One of the things that has also been plaguing the Twins, who are having a multitude of injuries right now. Their bullpen has been struggling a lot too as well. So if you're expecting Gonzalez to help relieve that bullpen of some of the workload they've had lately, it is not going to happen at all. So Chichi Gonzalez, I think, is a good guy to stack against tonight with the Blue Jays. And I think this is also an opportunity where the ownership on the Blue Jays may not be as high as you're expecting because everybody is going to be on Coors Field tonight with that matchup. The Blue Jays aren't overly expensive to stack, especially 1 through 5. The most expensive guy on here is Bo Bichette at 4,900. So it's not a stack that really is going to kill your bankroll, your salary cap either. But I like the Blue Jays a lot tonight going against the Minnesota Twins.
Makes sense to me. They're definitely pretty fairly priced. And they have the highest run expectation outside of the Braves. So that makes a ton of sense to me. I want to throw out the Houston Astros. They are taking on Brady Singer. Brady Singer has been pretty good this season. He's actually been very good. He's pitched to a 2.49 ERA, but all of his StatCast metrics suggest that this guy is due for some regression. He's 29th percentile in exit velocity, 21st in hard hit rate, 10th in barrel rate, 22nd percentile in chase rate. And we know how good the Astros offense is, right? They, despite, whatever sort of allegations they've had in the past, they continue to just rake year after year. So they are 7th in WRC plus against right-handed pitchers this season. They were first in that department last year. I wouldn't be shocked if they continued to rise up the rankings. You've got guys like Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, who should rake in this spot. So I like the Astros as an overlooked team on this slate.
See, that kind of contradicts with me liking the under in this game at 8.5. That's going to be a problem.
8-0 Astros.
Do you know how much the Astros have been hitting the under this year? Are you in tune with this?
I'm not.
75% of their games have gone under. The under, if you bet the under in every single one of their games during the month of May, it went 25-5.
Wow.
That's absurd. That is absolutely absurd. Like for this offense too, they have a good offense, but like the under has just been like an ATM machine. It's crazy. 75% of their games. That is absurd. And we're in June. We're almost 2 months into the season that it's hitting at that rate. But if you go through the game log, every game is like 4-2, 3-1, 3-2. It's amazing. So, I'm with you. Like Singer's been great. The advanced metrics match up that there's some regression coming, but like, it's hard to feel good about this offense because they're scoring enough to win. Like that's really what it's been. Like they're just barely winning these games because they're all like 1 or 2 run games. So I'm with you. Like all things said, yes, they should be able to beat up on Singer, but like Singer has been great. He's been striking out a lot. I think he's got 20 strikeouts in the 3 starts that he's made or whatever, but he's been good. So I'm not crazy about them, but they're definitely not going to be highly owned. That's for sure.
That's why it's a contrarian pick, Steven.
Yeah. Yep. No, that would be the definition of that. Is there any other offenses that you like tonight in particular to stack? I mean, obviously there's a lot to choose from in this one. We don't have any weather concerns to worry about. Anything else that kind of popped out at you?
I mean, the Yankees are always in play. They are quite good. I don't know if you've heard me mention that once or twice or 17 times on this show. They're taking on some guy named Elvin Rodriguez. Okay.
Sure, he's a nice guy.
Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously his minor league numbers weren't anything special either. Now he has the task of facing the Yankees at Yankee Stadium for tonight. Obviously I'm all up on that. Let's just go over to the sportsbook side for a little bit here. Is there any plays that you had your eye on in this one? I talked about the under in that Astros game. That was something that I liked a lot. I also like taking the over on Garrett Cole's strikeout prop for tonight, even though it's quite high, as you'd expect, though. But 8.5, it's down to -105. You could have got plus money this morning. It was at plus 105 this morning. And everything kind of has to go right for him to hit this number, right? Because we're asking for 9 strikeouts here. That's a lot of strikeouts for him to get. But the Tigers rank near the bottom of the league, not just against the fastball, but against the slider, the 2 main pitches that Garrett Cole throws out there. He's gone over this number in 4 of his last 5 starts. He's just been absolutely on one as of late. So even though this is a really high number, barring something strange going on with this game, because that's what's been happening with these massive favorites so far this year. But I think over 8.5 is a strong number that you can still take over, getting close to even money on that at -105.
I like that. I'm gonna throw out my team. I'll take a flyer on the Metsies today, as pretty significant road underdogs against the Dodgers. The Dodgers are really good. They're hitting. They pitch really well. The Mets were shut out for the first time all season yesterday. But I don't think
the first time all season.
First shutout of the year. Yep.
Wow.
I think that Chris Bassett is one of the more underrated pitchers in baseball. He's not going to blow you away with like big strikeout performances for the most part, but he excels at generating soft contact. He ranks in the 95th percentile for average exit velocity this season. So I'm happy to roll the dice with the Mets at plus 130. They have been better offensively against right-handed pitchers than left-handed pitchers, which is, they'll be on the wrong side of their splits against Tyler Anderson. But I do think that this matchup is closer to a coin flip than the odds are suggesting.
I mean, not only that, the Mets have a 109 WRC plus against lefties. I wouldn't say that's a bad number by any means. That actually does put them near the average for the league, but it's certainly not a bad number when you consider guys like, the Diamondbacks who are at the below are at 73. So 109 against lefties. And then the Dodgers are coming off a 3-game sweep against the Pirates. Somehow the Pirates just swept them over 3 games, which is incredible to me. That, a team that was tabbed to win, close to 100 games, just got swept by one of the worst teams in the league. And they allowed at least 5 runs in all 3 games. So I think it's safe to say that the pitching for the Dodgers has taken a little bit of a step back as of late. And I think Chris Bassett is vastly underrated, underrated.
He's good.
And not even just because he's on the Mets. And I'm doing a show here with Matt LaMarca, vastly underrated. And one of the reasons why that, while the Mets lost their top 2 guys, they have someone who's more than serviceable to take the brunt of that load in Bassett going against the Dodgers team right now, which is you always have to worry about, of course, because of how that offense is laid out. But I think it's safe to say this Dodgers team is scuffling a little bit here too as well. So don't hate that call by any means. A plus 130 favorite. I agree with you. I don't think Tyler Anderson is worth the minus 150 line. He's been fine, but it's not like he's going up against a team like the Diamondbacks who just can't hit lefties at all. The Mets certainly can hit lefties. So I do like that call there as well. And then I'll even double down on my thoughts about Burns. I'll take the Padres tonight at plus 150 as underdogs against Corbin Burns. I don't think that that's a bad call either, because for as good as Burns has been, Musgrove has been great as well. Yep. And this Brewers team is the poster child for hitting peaks and valleys when it comes to this offense. We've seen them put up double-digit runs, and then they just go ghost for a whole series, it feels like, and they're lucky to scrape across 2 or more runs. So I think the Brewers, who are a team that strikes out a lot, Joe Musgrove can generate those strikeouts too as well. I don't hate the Padres as 150 underdogs. I know going up against Burns has been a tough task, but I mentioned to you earlier, like his FIP is over a run higher than his ERA is right now. His defense has definitely bailed him out in some instances. So I do like the Padres as plus 150 favorites too as well against the Brewers tonight.
I don't hate that call. I mean, I expressed interest in Corbin Burns, but that should be a pitcher's duel. And like you said, Musgrove, when Musgrove is on his game, when he is good Joe Musgrove, he can pitch with anybody. So plus 150 seems fair there. I got one more game.
Sure.
I'm going to take the Phillies as slight home favorites here. They're up to minus 130, but you want to talk about pitchers that may be undervalued. Mr. Zach Eflin. Let's talk about him. His stats this season are fantastic. The ERA right now is at 4.61. Nothing to write home about there. But the xERA is 2.53. 98th percentile average exit velocity. 94th hard hit rate. 90th in xWOBA. Like, he is an advanced metrics darling. So you're getting him going up against a Angels team that has been in a bit of a skid recently. That's good. You get Bryce Harper back in the lineup tonight for the Phillies. That's good. And then there might be some sort of, bump following a coaching change. Yep. I don't know if Joe Girardi was like a guy who was loved in that clubhouse. I would kind of doubt that, knowing everything that I know about Joe Girardi. So I think there's more than enough evidence to warrant a play here on the Phillies.
No, I agree with you. And, that their defense, how bad that defense is a great indicator of how unlucky the Zach Eflin has been. The Phillies are one of the worst defensive teams in the league.
It's really bad. It's the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah,
but
no,
they should be able to hit their numbers as offensively haven't been as good as you would have hoped this season. But I think they're probably a bit undervalued at the moment.
All right, real quick, just give us some NBA thoughts. Obviously, the Celtics took down game one there, despite Steph Curry hitting anything and everything in the first quarter there, and then really were able to subdue that team in the fourth, take that game away. Now they are 4-point underdogs as this game two is coming up on Sunday. Any thoughts here? Are you looking to maybe take the Warriors now as underdogs on the series line? And how do you think this is going to play out now moving forward?
Yeah, my initial prediction on this series was Warriors in 7. I haven't seen enough that makes me want to come off of that prediction.
Sure.
The Celtics, phenomenal fourth quarter yesterday. I mean, Al Horford, Derek White, Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
It didn't really matter. Whoever was shooting the ball, it was going in that fourth quarter. So I think the Warriors have some things they need to figure out, but I trust Steve Kerr and company to make the adjustments. I expect them to win game 2. It's kind of a must-win game, with the series heading to Boston in game 3. You never want to be down 0-2 heading into the opposing team's building. So big must-win game, and I think we get the best performance from the Warriors.
Real quick, I just want to get your thoughts on MVP. I've seen a lot of chatter about taking Horford at 14-1. Really, since the Heat at the end of the Heat series, and then carrying over to the finals, he's been lights out. Obviously, Tatum's the favorite right now, plus 125. Any thoughts on this? And do you see the value at Horford at 14-1?
I think I'd rather take Jaylen Brown. He was kind of the catalyst for the Celtics yesterday. Yeah. Before everyone on the team got hot in the fourth quarter, it was Jaylen Brown who really kept them in the game and then ultimately sparked their comeback. So I think he's probably a bit undervalued at plus 550. I don't like to bet these long shot MVPs for the most part. I think just because it happened to Andre Iguodala one time doesn't mean that we should chase lightning in a bottle. Basically every other time it's the best player in the series. Like the team that wins best player wins the MVP. So I'm not necessarily firing any of these other lower guys. I think the most likely scenario remains either Jason Tatum or Steph Curry wins this award, but Jaylen Brown certainly off to a great start with his performance yesterday.
All right, that's a show. That's going to do it for us here on Friday on the Slate. Good luck with your lineups. Good luck with your bets. As always, Madden coming up at 6 p.m. Rams at Texans. That's what you got coming up next. Crack a brew, watch some Madden, watch some baseball, play some bets. We'll catch you next Friday.